The world was struck with deep sorrow when the news broke on April 21, 2025. Pope Francis had passed away at the age of 88. His death marked the end of a remarkable era in the Catholic Church, an era shaped by compassion, humility, and reform. His leadership had reached far beyond the Vatican, touching the lives of millions across the globe, regardless of faith, status, or nationality. Pope Francis was not only the head of the Catholic Church, he was a figure of unity and light in a world often darkened by conflict and division. His passing triggered waves of mourning and remembrance as people gathered in churches, public squares, and homes to reflect on the life of a man who had given so much of himself in service to others. Born Jorge Mario Bergoglio on December 17, 1936, in Buenos Aires, Argentina, Pope Francis grew up in a modest household as the eldest of 5 children. His early life was shaped by strong family values, a deep sense of community, and a love for the faith that would later define his mission. From a young age, Jorge felt a calling to serve. In 1958, he joined the Society of Jesus, known as the Jesuits, a Catholic religious order renowned for its emphasis on education, justice, and missionary work. His decision to become a Jesuit was the beginning of a journey rooted in deep faith, humility, and a profound commitment to helping the poor and the marginalized. By 1969, he was ordained a priest, and it was clear even then that his path was extraordinary. As Archbishop of Buenos Aires, he became known not for his grand speeches or lavish lifestyle, but for his actions. He walked the streets, visited the slums, and embraced the most vulnerable members of society. His leadership was intimate and direct. He listened more than he spoke. He gave more than he received. His choice of public transportation over official vehicles became a symbol of his belief in simplicity and humility. He did not seek fame, but his authenticity attracted admiration and respect from all corners of the globe. On March 13, 2013, Jorge Mario Bergoglio was elected the 266th Pope of the Catholic Church. His election was historic. He was the first pope from Latin America, the first Jesuit pope, and the first to choose the name Francis, after Saint Francis of Assisi, a saint known for his love for the poor and for all of creation. From that moment, Pope Francis set a new tone. His papacy was marked by an intentional departure from traditional formality. He chose not to live in the opulent papal apartments, opting instead for a modest guest house. His first appearance on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica was not filled with grandeur, but with a simple greeting and a heartfelt request for the people to pray for him. Pope Francis led with gentleness and firmness. He was deeply pastoral in his approach, emphasizing mercy over judgment and inclusion over exclusion. He reached out to those who felt alienated by the Church, LGBTQ individuals, divorced Catholics, and others who had felt left behind. He often said that the Church must be like a field hospital after battle, healing wounds before anything else. This philosophy guided much of his work during his papacy. His writings and public statements frequently focused on caring for the poor, protecting the planet, and promoting peace. His encyclical Laudato Si was a global call to action on climate change, urging people of all religions and nations to take responsibility for the earth. Even in his final years, Pope Francis never ceased to lead with courage. Despite battling chronic lung disease and other health issues, he continued to work, speak, and inspire. In his last days, as he struggled with pneumonia, those close to him reported that he remained calm, prayerful, and focused on the people he served. His final acts were of blessing, comfort, and peace. He continued to meet with visitors, to offer words of encouragement, and to pray. The announcement of his death came from the Vatican and was delivered with great solemnity by Cardinal Kevin Farrell. The world responded with deep sorrow. Bells tolled across cities and candlelight vigils were held in churches from Rome to Manila. Tributes poured in from world leaders, faith communities, and ordinary people who had been touched by his warmth and compassion. President Joe Biden spoke of Pope Francis's unshakable faith and his belief in the power of mercy. The Dalai Lama expressed grief, calling him a true servant of the vulnerable. On social media, people shared stories of how his words had comforted them, how his presence had brought hope and how his example had changed their lives. Pope Francis's passing marks the beginning of a period known as sede vacante, which means the seat is vacant. It is a time of mourning and reflection for the Catholic Church, but it is also a time of preparation. The College of Cardinals, the senior leaders of the Church, will now gather in Rome for the papal conclave, a sacred process by which the next pope will be chosen. This tradition, rich in history, involves deep prayer and discernment. The cardinals will seek the guidance of the Holy Spirit as they consider who is best suited to carry forward the mission of the Church in these challenging times. Many of the cardinals who will vote were appointed by Pope Francis himself, and his influence will be deeply felt in the Sistine Chapel. His legacy of inclusion, humility, and reform will be in the hearts of those casting their votes. The world waits now not only to see who the next pope will be, but to witness how the Church will continue to grow, heal, and move forward. Pope Francis laid a foundation rooted in love and action, and the next leader will be tasked with nurturing that legacy while addressing new and ongoing challenges. Among the most pressing issues the new pope will face is the continued effort to address the clerical sexual abuse crisis. Pope Francis took significant steps toward transparency and accountability, listening to victims and introducing reforms. Yet the work is far from complete. The new pope must continue this mission with unwavering honesty and resolve. He will also need to navigate divisions within the Church, including tensions between traditionalists and reformers, and between different cultural perspectives around the world. The Church is vast and diverse, and its unity requires wisdom, patience, and grace. Beyond the internal challenges, the new pope will also step into a world facing environmental crisis, economic inequality, and global conflict. Pope Francis often spoke of the throwaway culture that devalues life and the need to build a culture of encounter where people see one another as brothers and sisters. The next pope will be called to speak into this reality with the same clarity and compassion, reminding humanity of its shared dignity and responsibility. As the Church prepares for this transition, the faithful around the world are holding on to the memory of Pope Francis with love and gratitude. His voice may be silenced, but his teachings and his example remain alive in the hearts of many. He showed the world a new way to lead, not from above, but from beside. He washed feet, he embraced the disabled, he kissed the faces of children, and he cried with victims of injustice. His papacy was a testimony to the power of tenderness and to the strength found in humility. Pope Francis's love for creation and his advocacy for the environment also left a deep impression. In Laudato Si, he spoke not only to Catholics, but to all people of goodwill, urging a collective responsibility to protect the earth. His environmental message was not just scientific or political, it was spiritual. He called the earth our common home and reminded the world that the poor suffer most from environmental destruction. His leadership inspired countless people to live more sustainably, to care for nature, and to consider the moral implications of their choices. Another part of his legacy is his work in interfaith dialogue. Pope Francis believed that building bridges between religions was essential for peace. He held historic meetings with leaders of Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, and other faiths, always seeking common ground. His visit to the United Arab Emirates in 2019, where he signed a declaration on human fraternity with the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, was a milestone in Christian-Muslim relations. He met with Orthodox Christian leaders, promoted dialogue with the Jewish community, and emphasized that faith should be a force for unity, not division. Inside the Catholic Church, Pope Francis pushed for change even when it was uncomfortable. He called for a more synodal church, one where everyone, including lay people, women, and the marginalized, have a voice. He encouraged open discussion and listening. His synod on the Amazon brought attention to indigenous peoples and the need for a church that listens to local cultures. Though he faced resistance from some corners of the church, he never lost sight of the mission to bring the gospel to every person, especially the forgotten. In his own words, Pope Francis often said that he was a sinner loved by God. He did not pretend to be perfect.